Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicole and this channel is all about health, wellness, and designing your dream life. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my experience with my 48-hour fast. Over this past weekend, I actually did a 48-hour fast and I posted it to my Instagram stories. If you're not following me already on Instagram, I'll leave it somewhere here on the screen. And I actually had somebody comment and ask me if I could share my experience with my 48-hour fast. I do actually already have a video on fasting, and if you haven't checked that one out, I'll leave a link somewhere here and in the description box below. So you should definitely check that one out as well. But in this video, I really just want to be sharing my experience with it and how I felt and my thoughts on the entire process. So I've actually tried a few fasts before. I recently did a 36-hour fast, which I found was actually pretty easy. And then I was doing some 16-8 fasts, which is basically your standard intermittent fasting where you fast for 16 hours and you feed in an 8-hour window. And how I was doing that 16-8 fast was that I was actually eating breakfast and stopping eating around 2 or 3 p.m., which actually worked out well because I get 2 breaks at work, so I'll eat around 10 o'clock for my first break, which is kind of like my lunch, and then around 2 or 3 will be my dinner. And I found that that type of fasting was really helping with my late night snacking. And I talk all about that in my other video, so definitely check that one out. But with this most recent fast, I really wanted to try and push myself. So I had originally intended to try and do a 72-hour fast, but I ended up cutting it early and only doing 48 hours. And although I didn't reach my goal of 72 hours, I'm actually so proud of myself because I went from 36 to 48 hours, and that is a huge step. I definitely want to try for 72 hours again in the future, but I think maybe first I'll do a 60-hour fast. So there are many different reasons why people will do fasts, and I talk about that in my other video. Last time what I was doing was for gut health. This time my goal was more around self-discipline and willpower. The other reason why I wanted to try it this time was for autophagy, which is actually the body's way of cleansing the damaged cells inside of the body. So what actually happens is that the body ends up removing any damaged cells, which allows for greater growth and regeneration. So just as a general guideline, what actually happens is after fasting for about 12 hours, you enter into a state of ketosis, where your body actually starts to break down fat. By 18 hours, you're actually really into that fat burning mode. And after about 24 hours is when you enter into that cell regeneration stage. So I was really trying to push myself for that 72-hour window. And I was hoping to do it for a number of reasons. The first being to control cravings. I also was hoping to burn fat, like a lot of people when they do fasting. And then also to enter into that autophagy phase. So my experience with it. After about 24 hours, I was feeling great. There were a few moments where I felt a little bit hungry, but it wasn't anything severe. I wasn't like starving, feeling like I had to have food. Sometimes I'll actually get the shakes where my hands will sort of tremble a bit. I didn't have that at all, and I think an important part of it is making sure that you're eating proper nutrition before you start fasting. So like I said, the first 24 hours weren't too bad. It was when I got to that first night that things got a little bit difficult because I was watching a movie and I really was craving chips or popcorn or chocolate or just something to be snacking on while I was watching a movie. And that for me was the hardest part, was just knowing that although I was a little bit hungry, I wasn't starving, but the cravings came on so intensely that I knew that they were related to the fact that I was laying in bed watching TV, and they weren't actually related to hunger. And I think being able to separate those two things was a huge mindset shift for me. It really helped me to identify the triggers that I was having. And once you can identify triggers like that, you can start to distance yourself from them. So even though I knew that I was having these cravings because I was watching TV, I could sort of set them aside and say, no, I'm not actually hungry, I don't actually want these things, it's just my cravings in the environment that's making me think this way. So I got through, I finished my movie, it was great, and I went to bed. The whole next day was pretty much the same. I wasn't really that hungry, I was kind of having cravings every once in a while. And up until about the 45 hour mark, I was doing pretty good. And then again, the night came on, and this time it was so much harder. It was the same thing as the previous night where I was watching an episode on TV, and I just had the most intense cravings ever. And it eventually got to the point where I couldn't focus on anything else. It was all that I was thinking about was eating some chocolate because I knew I had some in the fridge. It might have been different if I didn't have anything here. If I didn't have any popcorn or chips, which I didn't, I couldn't eat it. But I did have chocolate here, and it was very easily accessible. So I ended up cutting my fast short. I finished it at 48 hours instead of the 72. Like I said, I was okay with that. It wasn't too bad, and it's set me up so I can try a little bit more next time. I made sure that I had some proper nutrition before I dove into the chocolate, but I did actually let myself have some. So something that I learned from this, and that you can try when you are giving it a go, is to make sure that you don't have any trigger foods in the house. And I would use this time to identify any triggers that you have, such as watching TV, and it just makes it that much harder for you to access them. So what did I actually do during my fast? Well, because I wasn't fasting for gut health this time, I let myself have some lemon water. Now it's really important to keep up some of your mineral intake, such as salt and magnesium. So I took my magnesium supplement before bed, and throughout the day I was having some salt water with lemon to cover up the salty taste. A lot of people actually report having headaches when they do fasts such as this, but it's really important to keep up your hydration, so make sure you're drinking lots of water. And like I said, you need to have some sodium, so I just added some salt into my water, and I had some magnesium before bed. Another takeaway that I had from this was the mindset shift around being restrictive. My intention of doing this was to help curb my cravings, because I know that I've had some success with it for my 24 and 36 hour fasts, as well as my 16/8 intermittent fasting. Huge success with those in order to keep my cravings away. First 40 hours of this, it was great, but it was that last sort of 40 to 48 hour window that things got really hard for me. I'm proud of myself for building up that willpower and being able to push that a little bit further each time. It's also important to remember this concept of not being restrictive with your eating. So going forward, what I'm going to be doing is not restricting myself from eating certain things. So I'm not going to say that I can't have popcorn, or I can't have chips, or I can't have chocolate. Make sure that I'm fueling my body first. Parents say to you, you need to eat your vegetables before you eat your dessert. Well, sometimes as adults, when we're in charge of our own rules, that becomes a little bit difficult. To work with kids, sometimes what I'll say to them is first this, then that. So instead of saying, no, we can't do this, I'll say first we have to do this task, and then we can do the thing that they want to do. This back on myself and give myself a little bit of self-parenting. First, I need to eat my healthy and nutritious meal, then I can have some chocolate. Super simple, nothing new, something that I have intuitively known. To practice, and handling these cravings is just a whole nother story. So if you're somebody who, like me, has late night cravings, what can you actually be doing? What can you learn from this? First thing that I would recommend trying is a 16/8 fast. Now most people actually will skip breakfast, have their first meal at around noon, and then eat until 8. But I would recommend flipping this, where you eat breakfast, have an early lunch, an early dinner, and then stop eating around 3 or 4 o'clock. That way you've already put yourself into a mindset where you're not eating past 4 p.m. And when you get home and you have those late night cravings, you can just say, nope, I'm not eating anymore. The second part of this is to meal prep and make sure that you're eating enough throughout the day. So because you're going to be eating in an 8-hour window, you need to make sure that you're getting all of the calories that you need to get in that window. This isn't restrictive, we're not cutting calories, you should still be eating the same amount of calories, just in a smaller window. You really need to be prepared for this and do some meal prep, mostly because you'll probably be at work while you're eating, so you need to have a couple of breaks throughout the day where you're eating a lot of food. The third part of this is keeping snacks out of the house. So don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry, try to stay away from those aisles that have the junk food that you typically crave, and make sure that you have alternatives in the house. So if you tend to crave sweet things like chocolate, try to have some alternatives like fruit. And if you tend to crave things that are a bit more fatty, greasy, cheesy, then try to have a bit more of a savory meal as your last meal. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that makes sense. I think I went on a bit of a ramble in there, but if you have any questions, just send me a message or leave me a message in the comments down below and I'll try and get back to you. If you are planning on doing a fast like this, make sure that you check with your doctor first, especially if you have any specific medical conditions. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I upload new videos every single week. Alright, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!